I am Edita Burgos, 77 years old, almost 77 years old. I am the wife of the press freedom hero Jose G. Burgos Jr. and the mother of the disappeared Jonas Joseph Burgos. Jose G. Burgos Jr. was a publisher editor of Viewpoint Malaya, and we started in May 1, 1977. From then until the time when we closed it, I served as general manager of the publications. One word that would describe the two publications is that independent. Although there were other publications, not same company, they were all independent. And the vision that we lived by was to seek and live the truth and share a vision. Yun yung buong description ng dyaryo, Viewpoint and Malaya. And at the time when we established it, it was the height of martial law. So, understandably, walang lumalabas na mga stories on corruption, on human rights abuses, and anything that had to do with the government, the Marcos family, and their cronies. So Joe Burgos saw the need to come up with a newspaper which was independent, print the truth and let people decide on who to believe in. It was not very easy because in the first place we didn't have money. So we started off with a borrowed typewriter, one typewriter, and a borrowed table. That was one table, and kami lang mag-asawa. What it was like economically was very, very difficult because, you know, I had to pawn articles to be able to come up with a little money to sustain the newspaper, pambayad ng papel. Wala kaming credit line, and also nag-umpisa pa lang, so we had to establish a network of people who could sell the newspaper, at syempre maraming takot. So we were able to get not the usual newspaper dealers, but people who cared enough to help share the truth. In terms of reporting, the newspaper, I think the publisher found it not only difficult but really very inspiring, because a lot of people came with stories, with evidence, so that the stories could be printed. And the reporters themselves stayed on even if the sweldo was very low. Ang description nga nila, barya-barya lang binabayad sa amin ni Mrs. Burgos. But when you would ask them, they could leave if they wanted to. We would give them letters of references to other newspapers. Walang kahit isang umalis. So, while it was difficult, it was very inspiring. I even described the period as a very romantic period for journalists who were working in Malaya and Viewpoint. When I think about the worst thing that happened to us, iisa lang yung incident na yun. This was the raid on our newspaper. So from 1977 up to 1982, we were able to publish legally Viewpoint and come up with the stories that didn't come out in the other newspapers. And these were stories of corruption, the story of the first family, the story of Marcos and his girls, the lifestyle of the first lady, and I think the editor, Joe Burgos, pushed the limits. Sige lang ng sige. But we knew that any time, because we already got warning signs, like the president, the dictator Marcos, said in one of these events of the veterans, said that pakakain ko itong jarang ito sa publisher. Yun yung si Joe Burgos. So we knew something would happen, and I would always go with him wherever he went, kasi kung i-assassinate, may witnessan lang. But what happened was that they raided the newspaper in December 7 of 1982. They took everything. They padlocked the printing press, sinira yung imprenta, pati yung mga upuan, mga lamesa, pinagbabasag nila para walang makagamit. For me, it was the worst, not only because they took everything, but there was the uncertainty. Makikita pa ba namin si Joe Burgos? Makikita ko pa ba yung asawa ko o hindi na? And what really pained me so much was that there were people who would destroy even chairs, inanimate objects, na sobrang galit na wala namang ginagawa sa kanila. And if there are people like that, what more could they do to people who opposed the dictator? So that was very, very sad for me. Pati yung paperclip, pati yung bigas kinuha kasi subversive daw. And you were there looking at them, feeling helpless. You knew it was wrong, it was not just, pero wala ka namang magawa. And the point came during the raid that ako na lang iniwanan nila, dinala na nila lahat ng inaresto nila. My husband, along with the columnists and the staffers, the heads of the different departments, and even I was being threatened by Colonel Abadilla, who was the head of the raiding team, that if I did not sign the papers he was presenting to me, pati daw ako dadalhin din sa Camp Aguinaldo. Well, of course I didn't sign. Alam ko naman gagawin nilang pambitay ng asawa ko yon. And of course what was written was all false. But for me, it was the worst thing because you feel so helpless. You know you should do something but you cannot do anything. But of course, after that, I saw the reason why it had to happen. After the raid and the people, my husband and the others were jailed, that was the first time that a public rally was held, headed by people like Ben Cervantes and yung mga lawyers, Rene Sagisag and all that. Before that, wala eh. So that was sort of the tipping point. Kaya there was something good that came out of it. And the family, my children, the gratifying part was that they were well trained, they knew what to do, they were very young. In fact, Peachy, the eldest, was around 12 or 13, and the youngest was just about 6 or 7. At that time, I only had 4, no? Kasi I had 5 children. They all were proud of their father. Their classmates sort of were taunting them, "Inaresto ang tatay nyo. Bakit ba?" And they were proud to say, dahil mahal niya ang bayan natin, ipinaglalaban niya. So, for me, that is very gratifying to see that nasa puso nila kung anong ginagawa ng tatay nila, and they were proud of him. That was my own problem. How would the children take it? Siyempre, nanay, di ba? But I knew that they were prepared. By God's grace, they believed in their father. After the raid, kinuha na nila lahat, wala na, di ba? But my husband, because of the so many protest letters coming from the different countries, heads of states, was released after a few days. Wala pang 2 weeks. And the first thing he did was to gather people and say, maglalabas tayo ulit. No? And the lawyers were telling him, ano ka ba, sira ulo? Will you invite another raid, another arrest, or maybe you could be assassinated? And his only answer was, and then dinudahan pa siya, nakipag-compromise ka na ba? Kaya pwede ka na maglabas ng dyaryo. And his only answer was, sir, ito lang alam ko para buhayin ang mga anak ko. Paano ko mapapakain ang pamilya ko kung hindi ako maglalabas ulit ng dyaryo? So he gathered people and told them, pwede na kayong lumipat, pwede na kayong umalis. We will understand. But you know, no one left. And with nothing, we started Malaya. But during the week or the days during the revolution, we had a different kind of strategy. We had what we call the guerrilla type of publishing. And my husband knew na anytime dadating sila, i-raid opisina, i-arresto in lahat. So he organized small groups. Kumpleto yan. Editor, reporter, proofreader, layout artist. Kasi noon, mano-mano yung layouting, di ba? And circulation manager, yung magdadala ng dyaryo sa labas and all that. So, anytime when he would say, paparating sila, in less than 5 minutes, yung team na yun aalis, may pupunta na isang lugar. That was my duty. To set up these places, see to it that they were fed, laging may kape at pandesal, and, to assure them that, somebody was taking care of them. Yung shadow, yun ang papel ko eh. Kung anong ginagawa ng husband, suporta, kasi wala naman ako nung talino niya at saka yung courage niya, suporta na lang. So I thought that was a thing that I should do. Pero everybody was inside the newspaper office. Halos walang tulog 4 days. I can count, siguro mga 3 oras lang yung tulog namin. Laging may bit-bit ditong toothbrush at saka underwear. Para pag inaresto, at least may dalang toothbrush at saka underwear. And we were ready anytime. We were not able to participate in the streets kasi this was the role that we had to play, and it was each person, I think, have a story to tell. I do not say na mas magaling itong We Forum, Malaya, the staffers, hindi. We all had our role to play, and parang machine, di ba? May big peg, may small peg. And I think Malaya did its job. to come out with the stories. That was the time when we were publishing more than 300,000 copies per day. May morning edition, may midday edition, may tanghaling edition, merong afternoon, then there was an evening edition. So all in all, I think our record was never broken of coming out with more than 300,000 copies per day. Yun yung time na yun. And the newsboys would be sleeping at the doorsteps, waiting for the newspaper to come out para sila una makabenta. The tension was much, but also ang taas ng namin ng how would you call it, inspiration level to do what had to be done. Hindi mo na nga i-urge yung newspaper boys to stay because they would sleep and say, "Ma'am, ako 100, ako 200." So they'd stay there lang. Even the reporters knew that they were at risk. Pero walang nagsabi na ayoko mag-cover, baka ako hulihin. They just did their job. And they were at risk. Anong level ng democracy? That's very difficult to answer because it would depend on the person, on the institution. Do you speak out freely but with respect? Because of course your freedom ends where the nose of somebody begins without hurting other people. Democracy in terms of freedom to access your rights, freedom to study, freedom to live quality life. I don't think we have achieved that much because the poor are still poor and even poorer. They cannot even access the right to education, which should be free. And they cannot access the right to good food. Ang dami-daming nakikita natin na rural poor and urban poor. The farmers themselves cannot live quality lives because we have so many policies, laws that infringe on their freedom. There's only one way of looking back, to look at the facts. We have what we call revisionism. Iniiba yung history. No? The responsibility of the youth now is to look at history, not from the point of view of just one group or two groups or three groups, but to really look into it from the different perspectives of the victims. Ang dami-daming na torture. And more than 30,000 were tortured. More than 3,000 recorded were killed. How many were jailed? Pero hindi yan nakikita ng mga kabataan. But if they just look, ang gagaling mag-research ng mga kabataan, they will find that they will say never again to martial law. You have the Bantayog, the keeper of memories of, mandate of Bantayog is the keeper of memories of martial law. And there they can find the facts, what happened. We have the publications about the plunder. So much is left to be done. Correct history. Put this in the history books. And we have social media. Those who have the gift should put online what really happened so that people would know. Aside from letting people know about the true history of what happened during martial law, what has to be done is to resist efforts to bring back people related to those who are responsible for martial law. Resist institutions who would brainwash and demonize other institutions. Resist, I mean active resistance. For me, each person can do something. Kung takot ka, nature mo yung matakot. Kung ayaw mong mapeligrohan kayo kasi may mga anak ka, you can pray, stay home, but do something. Kung pwede ka naman pumunta, go. Kahit hindi ka makilala, hindi ka ma-TV, be a number, be ahead. Pumunta ka. If you can raise a voice, raise your voice. That is the biggest lesson I learned. You can always do something and seize the opportunity because it will never come again. I hear stories of those who wanted to go to EDSA pero natakot hindi pumunta. Now they tell me, sana pumunta kami. wala na. No? At the moment when a good Samaritan is needed, be the Samaritan. Yung mga iba pumunta, may mga dalang boiled eggs. Yun ang storya nila. They did something. Hindi naman sila well-known, pero they did something. So sa puso nila, alam nila, may contribution sila para sa bayan. I am a secular Carmelite. I am a Catholic. Kumbaga, sarado-sarado, kandado, tinapon pa yung susi. That's what I am. And I believe that with the call of Christ for you to become a good Samaritan does not end even when you're old. That's what keeps me going. Pag inabandon ko yon, palagay ko hindi na ako Kristiyano, kung hindi na ako tutulong sa kapwa. In my own way, kasi yun lang naman ang alam ko. If I cannot go to a rally, I pray for them. Sana safe sila. If I cannot give food to my fellow families of victims of desaparecido, kasi limitado din ako, at least I refer them to people who can give them food. The little that we can do is a response to being a Christian. Kasi si Jesus wala namang kamay, walang mata, walang bibig dito sa mundo ngayon. You can be His voice, His feet, His hands, and His eyes. Yun ang ano ko is, be the voice of the voiceless. My name is Edita Burgos, the wife of Jose G. Burgos Jr., publisher, editor of Malaya and Forum, the mother of the disappeared Jonas Joseph Burgos. I am here because there is a little that I can do. You who are watching this station, this channel, there is much that you can do in any way. You are gifted with talents by the Lord. Use these talents. If it is a voice, be the voice. If you have something in your pocket, then share this with the lesser endowed people around you. My message is that do what you can do now that you have a chance to do it. You may be taken earlier and it will be too late to help. Me, I do what I can. I am 76, going on 77. There is still something that I can do, and I will do it. Now you know.